That's yours and
Yes, he was there. If there was one kid that was moving a lot, it was actually him. So this kid that was not paying attention.
Does anyone on the board have any more questions for Mr. Hagopian on the curriculum or anything? More technical now that the kids are gone? Anything you want to know?
Thanks for comment.
How do you see this evolving after it's been in place now for like 2 months? Is it better, same?
It's not 2 months, it's several years. It's a little bit like when we start doing balanced literacy, because once the structures and the routines are set, then you don't do the same beginning lessons anymore. So I worked in a community where I taught Open Circle for the first time, probably my second year there. I spent 15 years there. By the time I was a 5th grade teacher, we didn't do the same lessons in the beginning, we used the structures. So when we talk about 6th grade and how 6th grade will connect with this, they don't need the lessons because the structures will be in place and the lessons will be targeted to what a 6th grader needs. But what you're seeing, and what Mr. Griffin was right about, is the things like turn and talk aren't Open Circle. That's who we are as a community. We do that every day in the reading workshop. You know, turn and talk to your partner. It's pedagogical practice to engage students, because if a teacher just calls on a kid, one person participates. If you turn and talk, everyone has the accountability to be part of the learning process. So just like Open Circle, procedures and protocols like that become part of what we do every single day. Our big challenge, just because we're such a big community, so in January at that professional day, all of our teachers that were not trained this summer will receive training. In the February PD day, we'll give our instructional aides training. Our next part is, and our lunch aides, our next part is really just going to be how do we spread this out to some other people as well. And getting our parents to learn the language to read. It's our first step right now.
Right. Thank you.
Mr. Griffin?
I had a question. Like, one of the things I love about the stuff that comes home, and you can see it in the lesson here too, is these literature connections, like extra books to read. Is there a section in the library, do you know, are these books in our library, and is there a way maybe we could get them, or maybe...
A purchase order was put in. I'm still waiting for it to be processed since last spring. So when it gets processed, I'll get on that.
I don't know if there would ever be a thought that we could partner with the library here and see if they could have an Open Circle. Like, if we're trying to build it through with the community too, that might be an interesting add.
What we would probably want to start to do, though, if we want parents to truly use those books for, not just to read them, to use them for parts of instruction, we would want to also put stickers inside that tell a parent how to. So you'll remember that when we launched the district goal too, and we talked about the action steps, there were 2 different parent academies for Open Circle. The second one is directly about how to weave literature into the learning process. So that absolutely, you know, we could talk to Robin Rockman about that. She's always looking for ways to connect to the school. She's already been here this year to talk to our upper grades about library cards and how they can use the library more.
It's great. I love it.
I have one more comment that I didn't want to say when the kids were here. First of all, it was amazing to see, like I saw the presentation when the ladies came from Wellesley, and to actually see it in practice was amazing, and way better, really, than I thought it was going to be. And I was really impressed with their presentation. But having, in my life, I spent a lot of time with some high school kids, and life gets very stressful between the sports, the boyfriends, the girlfriends, and the academics. And sometimes it's crushing for them. And the negative self-talk, it comes out in ways like, I hate myself, I want to die, I want to kill myself today. And they don't mean it that way. It's the, I'm so stressed right now, and I can't see straight. But it's when that language comes out and that negative self-talk, you know, I'm just like, oh, can we change the language, kids? And I want to see these, and when I saw them, you know, we figure out as adults at some point we have to change that script in our head because it really is destructive. And I would love to see these kids having practiced this on different levels over the years when they get to that point in high school, and everything feels like it is crushing them to bits, to use that, hopefully not such severe language in times of stress. So I think it's so great that we're starting this now.
And negative self-talk is something we've been talking about even before Open Circle. So you'll remember when Mrs. Mason came last year and I put the thing on Mr. Hagopian's head. We did a whole series of lessons last year based on one specific picture book about the ants in your head. And each ant kind of is like the negative ant, the you're bad, that ant, the somebody's better than you ant. And how do you fight those negative ants or those negative thoughts in your head? You're right. And if you go to, societally, and if you go back to, I know you read What Made Maddie Run, like those negative thoughts are what are hurting our teens.
I'm just thinking out loud here, and so I'm just curious, as we're talking about the literature part of it, I wonder, you have obviously a list of all the, if we could talk to the PTA, and if those books are available at the book fair, like even having a section at the book fair that says like Open Circle books or something like that, so when the parents come in, they know that those are the books that are going to be used in the curriculum?
Well, they're not necessarily always used in the curriculum. They're supplementary materials, so I don't want to necessarily immediately put them in parents' hands without the actual, how do you use this book? Because we almost ruin the book when the kid says, I've read it already, I've heard it already. But what we could do when you bring up the PTA is we could talk to the PTA about Read and Wrap and Caldecott and use some of those books as part of those PTA book clubs, because it would be very easy for me to kind of help those parents know, gear your activity this way. And that's another way for us to make sure we're hitting another stakeholder group.
Could we talk about that? I'd be willing to not have you do the work, but have one of us do it. Okay.
Yeah, and I know Mr. Mengel will help, and a lot of the books are already here. I mean, yes, I want a set section, because at one point, we really made sure parents knew that they could take books out of our library, and this is how I would want to do that, almost like with a card inside that this is the types of conversation you have, because I don't want them to miss the opportunity and just read the book and love the story, but miss the teaching point of it.
Like when this comes home, the parent thing, I always look for the book or whatever, if there is a book associated with whatever they learned. So that's a good idea. Okay.
I'm just glad, we're starting early with these kids. These are lifelong lessons that you'll continue to learn, even as an adult. As an example, I was talking to my wife's cousin who's used to be a Navy SEAL. Now he's in leadership roles and he does training. And, one of the things that they do the most in training is having these cadets have coping skills with pressure. You can teach them a lot of academics. You can give them skills with arms or what have you. They can learn the tactics, but when it comes to pressure, those coping skills is what differentiates the cream of the crop from the average soldier. And it's those skills that make the difference. And it's all based on really what we're teaching here. And so, it continues. This is not something that, I wish we had control over the middle school and high school. We can develop some sort of training materials to get our kids more prepared for college, because, lately in college, there's been a big, huge washout rate, a lot of pressure, a lot of suicides, things of that nature. So unfortunately, we can't, and we only can focus on K through 6, but I just wanted to reinforce that, life is complicated and they're going to need these skills, and it does make a difference. So.
And one of the ways you can help as a board is if you are involved with things like Cub Scouts or Brownies or junior basketball, or those are the places that we kind of still need to find ways to infiltrate this vocabulary, because it's fine if it happens within the walls of OPS or in the home, but when do you get most frustrated? The third time you strike out. And if somebody had some of those skills to remind kids there, the carryover would be much stronger, because that is where they're still struggling.
I have a question for Mr. Hagopian. Lesson 11, positive self-talk. Did you pick this for them, or did Ms.
I did not.
Telford
So
pick it?
it actually just happened to be the next lesson in the curriculum. So when you look at the curriculum, there's beginning together, and there's a series of lessons. And this is one of the last lessons under the managing ourselves section. So for example, they've done lessons on being calm, on listening, which I know you guys were complimenting on how well they were listening to each other, recognizing and naming feelings, which is a really interesting one. So to actually recognize and then put a name to how they're feeling versus just having a meltdown. Body language and getting calm when you feel upset, and then it leads into this lesson here, which is positive self-talk.
So this is under managing ourselves? That's one of the sections.
Correct.
So what are do you know the other sections?
Sure.
Off
So
the top of your
it's-
head, or just the sections?
I have it here in front. So it's beginning together, managing ourselves, strengthening relationships. So under there would be, giving and receiving compliments. It's something that people necessarily don't always know how to do or accept, and they give them those tools. Including one another, cooperating, speaking up, and expressing angry feelings. So when you are upset, doing it the right way by using certain types of messages. The last two main sections are how to sort problems and problem solving. So how to sort problems is dangerous and destructive behaviors, a global term, annoying behaviors, teasing, behaviors that would be considered bullying, how to act as a bystander or an ally, and recognize, so in the older grades, recognizing discrimination, so understanding when someone's not being included in something. And under problem solving, which is one of our major things that we want children to be able to do, which is to problem solve, you have identify the problem, deciding, and I like this one, deciding on a positive goal. So we're always constantly setting goals for ourselves and in each grade level, in each subject area, socially, personally. So deciding on goals, brainstorming solutions, so they actually are taught how to think, evaluating solutions, making a plan and trying it, overcoming obstacles, so understanding that there will be difficulties in the road. And the last one, which I love, is being a positive leader. So actually, how you can be a leader. And it explains that there's all different types of leaders. It doesn't always have to be someone that is, out in front and standing on stage in front of everyone.
Because that's something I noticed is it seems it's a lot of, self-confidence, self-awareness, which is all fantastic. But it's a lot of self. And one of the things I noticed in the lesson was I'm walking into school with this big vase and I drop it. Okay, what can I tell myself? But are we ever going to look at the other side about being a positive influence to others? Like, that's the one side of it, but we really should be training our children out. When somebody does something in front of you, how do you react to them, and how do you help these other kids feel comfortable?
And
like when that child drops the vase, what do you as their classmate do for them? Because you can do, I agree with all this open circle, but we have to see the other side of it also. And is there any of that in Open Circle?
So there are. So that's the lessons I gave you, the titles. It's just a title. There's a lot of nitty gritty. Like even if you think about the kindergarten lesson, there was a scenario where there was a spill, and it was like, how could they come and help support that student, to help fix that problem. And people were getting
It's hard to hear a little, sorry.
Yeah, I apologize.
Yeah.
So we did it all on cell phone, and then when we transferred it on there was a lot of background noise, so it was a little bit tricky. So that lesson starts all the way in kindergarten, where they were problem solving on how to, and helping a student. So they were saying 2 kids wanted the help in that lesson, and one was like, I'll get the paper towels and you can wipe it up.
Right.
But being being an ally or a bystander, coming and helping out your friends, and when you talk about the problem-solving lessons, where they're talking about, identifying the problems, like, we talked about others, but you can see when someone else is in a scenario and where you need to go and help them.
Right, because
So there's
focusing on
serious-
self is important, but focusing on your fellow humans is
Of course.
really what's needed also.
And
And that
that's-
would cut down on a lot of the problems that our high schoolers are having.
Yeah, and you think the beginning together, the whole sense of community with this, it goes beyond you, that's why, and the connections of hearing it. But you're right, there was a lot of lessons that focuses on individuals, but it does translate, into the later lessons on that.
I think they pointed that out with one of the signals that they had with I can identify with that. I didn't pick up on it quite so quickly, but but absolutely, the other kids were doing it. When they heard something that they could understand themselves because they had felt that way. I think it helps to be able to identify the me part of it in order to see themselves in someone else. They've got to know that part in order to see it outside.
And it's interesting, going back to what Mrs. Nichols was saying, we were just, think about the fact that we're doing a lesson on giving a compliment, recognizing that it's beyond you, that you actually, are recognizing someone else for their efforts and giving them compliments. So the lessons are, they're weaved in.
That's good.
But yeah, there is.
Seems amazing.
It seems great. It really is. The talk, the buzz, seeing the teachers' faces after the training and the positivity that they walked out of that room with was incredible. Something that we hadn't seen a consensus before where everyone actually agreed. And the best part is that these lessons are 15 minutes. So kudos to the committee that was working on the scheduling, because that was very difficult. And it might only be 15 minutes, but 15 minutes made it even harder. But it's a very productive 15 minutes, and it's very impactful on the kids, on the teachers, and like I was saying to the parents here, and Ms. Bozios was talking earlier, it has to continue. The training needs to go to everyone, and the lunch aides and the custodians and the crossing guards, and we can get out of the walls of the school eventually, and and really just keep bringing people in. And I think we're on the right track. This is a fantastic program. Can't thank the board enough, because we understand how much this program was, and we understand the amount of commitment and training that's going into this, and continuously, and even up to into now. And but we're certainly seeing positive.
So maybe you can come, lead an open circle with the board, because we probably need it more than, anyone in the school.
We were trying to decide if we would have everyone go up there. We did, no, but it's, but no, it's great. So thank you, Mrs. Norian, for going up there. You never know what to expect when you get up there. So, but I even me, I had to, with the lesson of positive self-talk, I had to say it to myself. I was like, how am I going to get this microphone around everyone? I was
I can do it.
I can do it. I can come up with a solution. I'll just squat down and be an octopus. So it worked out. But
Thank you very
the
much.
problem.
I solved the problem.
We
Thank you.
loved it. Thank you, Mr. Hagopian.
My pleasure. Thank you.
Okay. All right, so we'll move to superintendent's report.
Yes, just have the monthly enrollment report to add to what we've heard already. The total student enrollment as of November 30th was 761, and student attendance rate for the month of November was 97.9.
For the month of November or the month of October?
Oh, I'm sorry. I apologize. It should have been October.
Right, okay.
Do you have the staff number this month, or no? Just the students?
No, just the students.
Okay. Anything else?
No.
Is that it? Okay. Is this administrator's report?
No report tonight.
Thank you. Review of meeting minutes, October 30th. Any questions or comments, please email Mr. Momora. We have approval of meeting minutes for September 25th and October 16th. Do I have a motion?
I move that we approve the minutes of September 25th and October 16th.
Do I have a second?
I'll second it.
Second by Mrs. Norian. Any questions? Call the question?
Mr. Griffin?
Yes.
Mrs. Levy?
Yes for September 25th and abstain for October 16th.
Mrs. Norian?
Yes.
Mrs. Shapiro?
Yes on September 25th, abstain October 16th.
Mrs. Walker?
Abstain for September 25th, and yes for October 16th.
Mr. Walsh?
Yes.
Dr. Wesley? Mr. Darian?
Yes.
President Nichols?
Yes. Building and Grounds, Mr. Darian?
Yes, update for the subcommittee. We met on November 5th. We discussed the renovation in the basement. We're almost nearing completion. We have a short list. I'm getting puzzled looks. So we're having work done in the basement, in case you're wondering. The partition wall is in. I know that, there's been some questions on how that would work and, whether it would fit in the space. And I must say, I'm pleasantly surprised. It's awesome. It's, on a scale of 1 to 10, I think it's like an 11. And even the vendor who installed it said that this was pretty awesome equipment. So, kudos to the architect for selecting some good equipment and the administration for coming up with the idea of creating a space that could be configured in multiple ways. So it's actually, the construction is actually almost complete. There's a short list of things we still have to work through, but we're getting there. We discussed drainage. Again, we're having issues with some of the stormwater getting out and draining it to the catch basins appropriately. So we're going to have to investigate on what's the best way to approach repairs. And landscaping issues we discussed. So the minutes are in your packet. If you have any other questions, we can discuss them. Otherwise, I see none. I'd like to introduce items B1.
I'll second.
Second by Mr. Walsh. Any questions? Call the question?
Mr. Griffin?
Yes.
Mrs. Levy?
Yes.
Mrs. Norring?
Yes.
Mrs. Shapiro?
Yes.
Mrs. Walker?
Yes.
Mr. Walsh?
Yes.
Dr. Westlake? Mr. Varian?
Yes.
President Nichols?
Yes, curriculum, Mrs. Noreen?
Yes, we had a meeting earlier this evening, and we will share that information with you at the next meeting, probably. And other than that, I have no other report.
Thank you. Finance, Mrs. Shapiro?
I have no report this evening, except for committee members. We have the next meeting. I'm going to need to push back the time. We can talk about that another time. I'd like to make a motion to approve items D1 through D12.
Second by Dr. Westlake. Any questions? Call the question?
Mr. Griffin?
Yes.
Mrs. Levy?
Yes.
Mrs. Norring?
Yes.
Mrs. Shapiro?
Yes.
Mrs. Walker?
Yes.
Mr. Walsh?
Yes.
Dr. Westlake? Mr. Varian?
Yes.
President Nichols?
Yes, delegate report, Mr. Walsh?
I have a delegate assembly coming up the 23rd and legislative meeting December 7th.
Which one are you voting at?
The delegates assembly, but I still haven't received the book with I think there's one resolution.
I think I got it, actually. I think I received it. So you don't have it yet?
No. If you have it, I should get it.
Okay, I thought you were going to have it tonight to share with the board. Let me see if I can get that to the board, the resolution, because I think it's something about going over the 2% cap or something, which I'm not even sure I agree with, so maybe you can get it and send it to the board. So, do you know what it is? Yeah, okay, all right.
I don't think it was the superintendent's cap.
No, it's I think the 2% budget cap, something with the budget
Yeah.
cap, right? Some
Yeah.
district is bringing it forward, right? You saw that? Which I don't know if it's a good thing or not.
Didn't get enough money or something from the state, and they want to,
And they kind of want to make it up to their taxpayers, right? Which,
I think that's what it is.
something like that, okay. Personnel, Mrs. Walker?
Yes, thank you. We had a productive meeting this evening. One of the things we did discuss was the calendar for 2020-21, which is a work in action, and you'll get the rest of the report in your packet for the next meeting. And with that, I'd like to present F1.
Second by Dr. Westlake. Any questions?
I have a question, not about that, but about personnel. Should I wait until we, but just when do we normally finalize, or did the community get to know about the schedule for next year? I guess because,
Schedule or calendar?
calendar, sorry. I guess because, I always get confused, Labor Day is so late. I guess people have been questioning when school would start next year. So I was just curious as to when that would
to the public until the board votes on it, but more than likely, we will be starting before Labor because that's how Riverdale and River Ridge are doing their calendars right now. Nothing is final, nothing is set,
Okay,
but a few years ago on Labor Day was just like, we did start ahead.
okay,
So it's looking like the 3 districts are leaning that way,
okay.
but nothing is
Final, obviously.
final.
Okay, thank you.
It's kind of early, but yeah, hopefully soon. Any other questions for personnel? Call the question?
Mr. Griffin?
Yes?
Mrs. Levy?
Yes.
Mrs. Noreen?
Yes.
Mrs. Shapiro?
Yes.
Mrs. Walker?
Yes.
Mr. Walsh?
Yes.
Dr. Wesley? Mr. Darian?
Yes.
President Nichols?
Yes. Policy, Mrs. Levy?
Yes, so there are minutes from our last meeting in your board packet. At the last meeting, the policy committee approved the policy manual. We kind of thought it would be on the agenda for this evening, but due to a technical issues or whatever, it will be on in December for approval. We're also finalizing the last the one for medication, memorials, and fundraising activities. Our next meeting is on November 25th. That's it.
Public Relations, Mr. Griffin?
Our last meeting was on the 28th. I gave an update last time there's no additional update. Our next meeting's on November 25th.
Okay. Tri-district, Dr. Westlake? Open to the public? Our faithful public. Any old business? Mr. Griffin?
I did want to bring up something in the culture and climate survey that was given to us a while back. We haven't discussed this specifically, but one of the areas of concern, and there may not be an answer tonight, but there was a question about the school consistently enforces the code of student conduct, and 55% of our teachers disagreed or strongly disagreed. I think that's something that we should learn more about, finding out what the answer is going to be at some point, or what the problem could have been.
Do you know how many teachers complete, like how many
Yeah,
staff members?
44 responses. on
So
that survey.
55% of 44.
Yeah, so, and but I think it's more interesting that only 21% of people agreed or strongly agreed on it. So it's a vast, there's some people were neutral, but it is something that I don't want to let this stuff go. I'd love to hear what the answers would be.
This climate survey, I have a question. Something that we did, or was that done by the administration? Who?
It's the one that goes out at year end. The superintendent sends out to the parents, the teachers, and the students. We do it every year.
Okay, so would that be something you would handle, or someone would handle as a subcommittee to make recommendations to have this updated?
It sounds like it's a stat. It feels like it's the administration's purview. I don't think it's the board's purview on how it's going to be handled. I think as a board member, I'm just interested in what the district is doing about that.
Okay.
I don't think this is a board subcommittee that needs to be responsible for it.
And what was the specific line they disagreed with?
Sure. The schools consistently enforces the code of student conduct. I don't know why 55% of our teachers would say they disagree or strongly disagree on that.
Mr. Walsh, you had old business? Did you have old business?
Yes.
Go ahead.
Mr. Griffith asked to attend the delegates assembly and the legislative meeting.
Yep.
So he should be on the docket as being approved.
He was on tonight. You mean for travel expenses? Or for something else there?
Should we list him as an alternate so that he at least is a representative of some sort of the board?
Being
Or he's just
listed
viewing?
As an attendee,
Okay.
but non-voting.
We passed that, John. You were on
It
it
was
and
in there.
approved it. We approved it
It was
tonight.
under personnel, in the list for personnel.
I'm just saying that Jeremy asked to,
How are you getting there?
I'm seeing if I can get a ride from him, if he wants. I haven't talked to him about it, but we leave at
I will-
6:30.
I will answer this to you right now, yeah, I'm happy to give you a ride. Is that 6:30 in the morning, John?
Yes.
Change your mind?
We'll make it happen.
No, I get a ride from a board member in New Milford.
You don't want to go, Mr. Griffin, your own board member?
So I'm trying to find out if the three of us can go together.
I think you were just denied.
I
Okay,
mean, I have no problem going either way.
okay. You two can work it out. Any other old business?
Uber, Jeremy.
Any new or old business?
Yes, I just had, I'm not sure it's new or old. Could we have a list from the board, a list of the new member, the whole board?
Oh, yeah, you asked for this last time. Yes.
The board office, and a list of their names, positions, and contact info. That's one. And the other thing, I guess, to be sure that each committee gets their agenda at least 24 hours ahead, so that we are aware of what we're going to discuss and the possibility of us being able to add to that agenda in a timely fashion.
That had come up during our meeting with curriculum and instruction, but we had also asked if it might be extended to all of the committees and where we might be able to share what the agenda is to everyone on the board, so that if there is input from anybody else to the committee that we're handling, that you would have that opportunity to give that information to the chair.
So a few days before the committee meetings, the agenda should be going to the chair and the committee, so the committee can add what they want. Once that's finalized, then it just goes to the board. If a board member has an issue, they can't add to the agenda, they can call up the chair.
Yeah.
That's good. That's good.
Any other questions, old
Thank you.
or new business? Mr. Griffin?
New business, I just wanted to, New Jersey School Boards put out a report on mental health recently. It's a really good report. If the board members haven't read it, I would encourage you to. I also would ask the president if there might be a way to have someone from New Jersey School Boards present to the board at some point on it. There are 72 recommendations that they offer for schools to consider. I think we're doing a great job. I think Open Circle is a great example of us prioritizing this. But this is a very important report, and I would love for us to spend a little time on it as a board.
Can you, do they have people that present on it?
I
Do you
have no
know?
idea. I haven't asked.
Do you want to look into that? Can you forward the report to Dr. Ansel, and then he can maybe make some calls to find out exactly
Yes,
if there
I
are
can.
people that present, or it's just for us to?
Yep, I will do that.
Any other old or new business? Okay, we need a motion to go into closed session for a personnel issue.
So moved.
Then we go with the closed session.
Okay.
Second.
Second by, Catherine, you want to make that second?
You
Or
can- you
Mrs.
can
Walker
give it
made
to
the
Rita.
second. It is 8:43.